Hello, and welcome to Calm the Chaos at Home, where we are helping you bring connection and curiosity and love back into your home and having more peaceful days with a child who potentially is challenging you a bit. And today we're going to be talking about the child that drops to the floor. And we're calling him Daniel. I should also mention that these tutorials, there are 6 in total, and they're all a collaboration between myself, Barbara Avila, and Christy Preddy-Franzek. And our collaboration is called Curiosity to You. And if you want more information or want to watch the other videos, you can go to that website and www.curiositytoyou.com and find out more. So let's jump in. So let's talk about drop to the floor Daniel. So you must have a child who you're walking along in the grocery store, decides to that they want something and they drop to the floor and won't move on. Or you're trying to transition from one place to another even within the house and they drop to the floor and they won't move on. So that's the kiddo we're talking about. So you're in the right place, and here we go. So I'm going to start with letting you know that dropping to the floor is often an indication that a child needs some control in a situation, or for more information, or that they simply need a little bit more time to process the information that they've been given. Developmentally speaking, so it's very typical for children to drop to the floor sometimes early in development. Children experiment with how they're going to refuse, how to have control in their lives, how to make choices, and dropping to the floor just may be one of those things that they're trying out, and it will only be temporary. So it might go away real quickly, hopefully. It may also be a physical manifestation of how they're feeling. So if they're feeling lots of emotions and they're feeling really overwhelmed, they may drop to the floor just, I can't do anymore, I can't go anymore, because emotions can feel really big when you are really little. Again, this is developmentally speaking, so early on in development, this is typical. However, you might be here because dropping to the floor has sustained a little bit longer than you'd like it to, or it's more extreme than what you might see in typical development. So I'm here to let you know that dropping to the floor can stop. And the next slides are going to walk you through, I'm going to walk you through 10 steps that you can take today to help your child from the floor to basically calmly transitioning with you from place to place. So step 1, you really need to ask yourself if there's a medical reason for your child's dropping to the floor. Children drop to the floor if they're overtired, if they're hungry, they haven't slept enough, they're not feeling well. So ask yourself that question first, and do a little bit of observation and thinking. Maybe even take your child to the doctor if you're concerned about their dropping to the floor and that it might have a medical cause. So you always want to rule that out first. And then second, so step 2 is, say you've ruled out that it's anything medical. So next stage, you actually need to be quite curious. You need to figure out why your child's dropping to the floor. You need to take some time to observe. So instead of reacting, I want you to be in a state of pure observation. So go to the store with your child, observe that they drop to the floor, and allow yourself, instead of reacting that moment, to say to yourself, what happened? Why did they fall to the floor? Because without understanding the why, there's no way you're going to effectively change that behavior. I love saying this, one phrase is that you can't get rid of a behavior without replacing it with something that works. So you have to figure out, how is it working for your child now? Why are they doing it? Step 3, after you have decided why you think, it doesn't have to be perfect, but why you think your child might be dropping to the floor, then you might consider modifying your schedule and allowing more processing time and shared control. I am assuming most children do drop to the floor because they're wanting a little bit more control. They're feeling kind of like it's either my way or the highway, and they may need a little bit more processing time to shift from whatever they were thinking about or doing to then being on your agenda. That's really common. So consider modifying your schedule so you can allow time for that moment that you think they might drop to the floor, and offering other solutions, or simply just giving more time for that transition. That can be huge. So step 4 is I want you to plan for successful practice sessions. So what I mean by this is I'm going to move back to step 3 for a second. When you are modifying your schedule to allow more processing time and shared control, what I mean by that is that you might set up opportunities in your practice sessions to have your child, for example, carry something that needs to happen in the transition. So there's some shared control. It's giving them a choice or something to be involved in the transition rather than just you have to do it because. Nobody likes just straight compliance. There's a time and a place for it. I get that. But ideally, you want your child to feel empowered that they can move from one place to another with you successfully. And sometimes that means giving them a job. Sometimes it means giving them what I like to say choices within a non-choice. So you can carry this or you can carry this. It's not a choice that we're going to go. But giving them a little bit of control over their own body, their own choices can make a huge difference. So plan for some of those and plan for that processing time. That's huge. So if you're always in a rush, this is just a message that you might have to plan to slow things down a bit so your child can be successful and not drop to the floor. That might be what they're telling you is, I can't be rushed all the time. So that's another little thing to think about. So along those lines of feeling rushed, if you're feeling rushed, if you're feeling reactive, if you're getting triggered by the drop to the floor, I want you to think about ways that you can center yourself so that you can also center your child. So this may be taking a deep breath. It may be slowing down, reminding yourself to be in the moment with your child, to enjoy those smaller moments, not just get from A to B, but to actually savor the walk between, create a connection between you and your child for that transition is going to make a huge difference because you are centered, you're attending to your child. That's going to make a bigger difference than you even realize. So think about how you can center yourself so that you can center your child. Step 6, allow time and active partnership using tension. So this is when your child does drop to the floor, no matter how well you've planned and practiced, etc., it still happens, right? So you have this moment where your child has dropped to the floor. This is where I'd love for you to think about, okay, so I could pick him up and just make him go. Problem is the older your child is, the less likely you're going to be able to pick them up. And so if they're not learning now, they're just going to get bigger, right? So in the moment that they drop, I want you to allow that time. Go what I call custodial, like go where you're kind of mechanical and no emotion, and just allow that time so that you're allowing that processing time. And then I love this, it's actually a developmental term that is tension. And I know it's confusing because tension is thought of as being a negative, like tension, stress. But tension is also that moment that you offer an opening line or a bid to someone else. That provides kind of tension in the air that someone else responds to. So you can even practice this at home right now if you wanted to hit pause and go try this. Go put your hand out to someone in your family. Just go up to them. Don't say a word. Put your hand out. They are immediately going to put their hand in your hand. Or they're going to have some sort of reaction. So if you have somebody funny in your life, they may give you 5, they may push your hand away, but they're going to have some sort of reaction. And that actually is what I'm talking about here. So say, for example, your child drops to the floor. You can use exactly that one. Put your hand out and give them the moment of tension that, hey, I'm bidding for your attention and your active participation. It's not a have to, and they may push your hand away, and that's okay. But they are creating a partnership with you because they're responding to whatever it is that you bid. I hope that makes sense. So it's pretty cool how when kids drop to the floor, you put your hand out. They often will take your hand back. I mean, we'll take your hand, just automatic pilot, and then kind of realize, oh, wait a minute, I didn't want to go with them. And then you put your other hand out, and then they reach for that one, and you make it kind of this back and forth, make it a game even, and then pretty soon you are walking together again, and it isn't as much of a he said, she said kind of back and forth between you. It becomes more of this nice cooperative, active participation between you. And the term that I really like is that you're co-regulating with your child in that moment. So you're using that, they're borrowing your regulation in that moment to then regulate themselves in a partnership with you. So pretty cool. So use that idea of tension. Hopefully that made sense. Step 7, allow the storm to pass versus trying to control it. So this is similar to what I said in the last one, but really giving you permission. In the moment that they drop to the floor, you don't have to solve it right there. You don't have to pick your child up. You don't have to do anything. Allow the storm to pass. Allow your child to kind of have that peak of emotion. You can't teach at the peak, basically. So anything you say or do in that moment is really not going to be heard anyway. So you might as well just allow the storm to pass. Make sure your child is safe, of course. Don't try and control it. And then try and join and do some of the things that we're talking about with the active participation. So step 8, review success. So your child, instead of dropping to the floor, maybe they actively participate with you or take a choice within a non-choice or one of those things that we're talking about today, and they do it really well. Definitely take the moment, instead of going, oh, finally, they participated without dropping to the floor. I want you to actually give the information to your child and say, you did such a great job. I'm so proud of you. Whatever works for your child, to hear that you really value their active participation in transitioning with you. So review that success with your child. Then I definitely want you to return to the task. The thing that I see again and again in my work is that people, when they have a troubling situation where their child may drop to the floor and melt down, they don't return to that situation. They just say, oh, well, I guess I just can't do that. I really want you to try again, because that's really when true learning happens. So reviews success, of course, but when you have a bad moment, return to the task or return to the situation. Try again with your mindful support in that moment where you're planning ahead. You're helping them with alternatives, et cetera, et cetera. So plan to try again, return, and then review success. Those are all super important things. Step 9 is assume positive intent. These steps don't necessarily have to be in order, by the way, but this one is a kind of overarching the others as well. Is for all of these, if you are coming with assuming that your child is trying to manipulate you by dropping to the floor, or they're just bad kids or whatever, I know I'm being extreme because you wouldn't be here if you thought those things. But if you have any of that negative, and you're imagining that they have that negative intent, you're not going to teach in the same way. You're not going to guide your child in the same way as if you simply assume positive intent and you're supporting your child, knowing that they want to do well and that they want to please you. I mean, kids want to do well. I feel very strongly about this. If they're not trying to be manipulative, they just need help and support and guidance through that moment. And that might mean more processing time. It may mean that they need more shared control. It may mean that they just need you to slow down. But all of those require you assuming positive intent that they want to do well. So step 10, so say you have found some of these things to be really helpful in moving through your day with fewer moments of them dropping to the floor. I want to make sure that you know that you can't just practice in one setting at home, for example, and then think that the behavior is going to go away. It still may work in other situations, and so you may have to share that information with other people in your child's life. So sharing with grandma, grandpa, aunt and uncles, school, daycare, that kind of thing. Make sure you share that information, but also for you to practice in different situations. So not just at home, but practice at the grocery store when you know that things will get hard. So keep experimenting and practicing in a variety of settings. So that concludes our Calming the Chaos for Drop to the Floor Daniel. And I just want to make sure that you know that we have a few other tutorials. We have 6 in total. We have Refusal Ryo, the kiddo that refuses to participate. So very similar to Drop to the Floor, but a little bit different. They might be saying no instead of dropping to the floor or not participating. And then impulsive Ian, the kiddo who's touching everything, getting into everything, really hard to manage. Drop to the floor Daniel, of course you know now. Swearing Shang, biting Brophy, and screaming Sonia. So if any of those sound intriguing to you, please go to our website at www.curiositytu.com. And again, this is a collaboration between myself, Barbara Avila, and Christy Preddy-Franzek. And thank you for being here, and we wish you peace in your home today.